Hi, everyone, and welcome to Mom's Clean Air Force's Speak Out for Climate Action. And this week, we are going to be talking to our New Mexico organizer, Solera Hughes, and Congresswoman Deb Haaland, who represents New Mexico's 1st Congressional District. My name is Molly Michael, and I'm going to tell you more about Solera and the Congresswoman in just a moment so they can kick off their conversation. But before I do, we have a fun pre-show performance from our favorite bilingual performer and Latin Grammy winner, Mr. G. Typically, Mr. G performs for us when we're able to be in Washington, D.C. live in the summertime for our play-in event. But because we've been staying home all year to protect our families, he's sharing his talents virtually this year. And the performance we have for you is very special to us. It is a song from our September finale event from our stay-in with Mr. G and Claudia Acuna, and they will be performing Tu y Yo, and You and Me. It's a bilingual song. I hope you enjoy it as much as we do. Thank you. Take it away, Mr. G and Claudia.
We are all together. We can make things better, you and you and you and you and me. This old world has got some problems, but we can work to solve them, you and you and you and you and me. Whoa, you and you and you and you and you and me. Whoa, you and you and you and you and you and me.
Estamos juntos en este camino, juntos en este desierto, juntos en este planeta, cruzando la frontera, caminando lentamente bajo un sol ardiente, tú y tú y tú y tú y yo.
Whoa, tú y tú y tú y tú y tú y yo. Whoa, tú y tú y tú y tú y tú y yo. Todos son iguales, somos animales, tú y tú y tú y tú y yo. Todos visitantes, somos inmigrantes, tú y tú y tú y tú y yo. Whoa, tú y tú y tú y tú y tú y yo. Whoa, tú y tú y tú y tú y tú y yo.
I am a mother. I am an immigrant. I am a sister. I am a daughter. I am a woman. We share the same dreams for our children and a better world for them and for all of us. Soy una madre. Soy una inmigrante. Soy una hermana. Soy hija. Soy una mujer fuerte que desea y tiene sueños de un mundo mejor para todos ustedes, para todos nuestros hijos y todos los que vivimos en este planeta y para todos nosotros.
Whoa, tú y tú y tú y tú y tú y yo. Whoa, tú y tú y tú y tú y tú y yo. Whoa, tú y tú y tú y tú y tú y yo. Whoa, tú y tú y tú y tú y tú y yo.
Seguimos el paso. We all in this together. We all in this together. Please go and vote.
Welcome back, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed that song. It's such a beautiful piece, and thank you so much for tuning in this evening. As I mentioned earlier, I'm here representing Moms Clean Air Force, a nationwide movement of more than 1 million moms and dads united to fight air pollution and climate change. Today, I'm joined by Congresswoman Deb Haaland and our New Mexico field organizer, Celera Hughes. Celera is the New Mexico State field organizer for Moms Clean Air Force. She grew up in Corrales, New Mexico, where she climbed trees and raced her bike to her neighbors with the neighbor's horse. After moving to San Francisco to get her master's in U.S. history, she returned home to Albuquerque to have a family. Since returning, she has been working with local businesses that believe taking care of people and protecting air, land, and water are as important as profit. She has a daughter who loves exploring nature, and she hopes to help preserve that for other families. And now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Congresswoman Deb Haaland, who represents New Mexico's 1st Congressional District and is one of the first Native American women to serve in Congress. As a 35th generation New Mexican single mom and organizer, the Congresswoman knows the struggles of New Mexico's families, but she also knows how resilient and strong New Mexico communities are. In Congress, she is a force fighting climate change and for renewable energy jobs as vice chair of the House Natural Resources Committee, a powerful supporter of military personnel, families, and veterans on the House Armed Services Committee, and continues to advocate for dignity, respect, and equality for all. And now I will let Celera and Congresswoman Haaland have their conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Molly. For nearly a decade, moms have been organizing to demand meaningful action to stop climate pollution because it is threatening our safety and well-being. But more importantly for moms, it is threatening the safety and well-being of our children and grandchildren. Now, before I put you on the spot, Congresswoman, we have some questions about your work in Congress, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak about your priorities, your thoughts on addressing the climate crisis, and how your work may benefit New Mexicans and the 1st District, as well as Americans across the country.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Molly, Celera. Thank you, all the wonderful kids for hosting this event, and the performance by Mr. G. What a great way to start this conversation. So many of you have heard me state that the most important issue facing this country, this world, our planet, is climate change. I ran for Congress with this as my top priority to address, and it hasn't changed. That is still my top priority. And yes, there are many challenges facing every single one of us. I have worked on legislation to help to work toward all the priorities I care about, but climate change, I think, is the most important one, because if we don't have our Earth, we don't have anything. I have nearly 700,000 constituents in my district, and there are so many concerns that need my attention. For example, children and families. I introduced the Universal Child Care and Early Learning Act so that every family, regardless of their income or employment, could access high-quality, affordable child care options. Also, our fellow Americans working under challenging circumstances due to this terrible pandemic. Rep. Ro Khanna and I, Ro Khanna from California, worked on the Essential Workers Bill of Rights. And for our farmers, I introduced the Farmers Bill of Rights with Senator Booker to protect small family farms and rural independent farmers. I wanted to protect our contract workers, and so I introduced the Gig is Up Act to make sure that gig workers were not having to be saddled with huge tax bills that their employers should share with them. Equality for all is also important to me. And I think it should be easy to vote in this country. So I've supported legislation that supports both of these rights that are constantly under attack. My parents served in the armed forces. My dad was a 30-year career Marine, my mom in the Navy, and we know how much they sacrifice for this country. And I'm so in awe of what our fellow Americans do to keep all of us safe. And I'm honored to serve on the House Armed Services Committee. I'm a champion, or try to be a champion of Indigenous people's rights. And we've been successful in advocating for the missing and murdered Indigenous women. And that's always an issue that we need to move forward with. I know we're here to focus on climate change, and I'd like to mention that I've supported a lot of bills to protect our climate, to protect our wilderness, to protect our land and our water. The Antiquities Act, the Climate Stewardship Act. We passed a bill in the House to protect Chaco Canyon from gas and oil drilling. We introduced the 30 by 30 resolution to save nature so that we could conserve 30% of our land and waters by 2030 and make sure that we were not falling off the precipice that the climate crisis is moving us toward. I co-led the 100% Clean Economy Act, and that'll set up a process for the U.S. to reach a goal of 100% clean economy by 2050. And I'm a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal, which I know is always in the news, and you know, it's an aspirational document right now, but I think that we can keep moving that forward. And just a couple more. The SOAR Act, the Simplifying Outdoor Access for Recreation Act, that's to make sure that more children and more people have a chance to spend time outdoors. So I'm super excited to be here. I think in every committee that, even including the House Armed Services Committee, we're pressing hard to make sure that we're addressing climate change. And I'm advocating for every additional measure to make sure that we can promote that, microgrids, renewable energy in fiscal year 21. And we'll just keep moving forward.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman, for all of your work that you've done. New Mexico families really appreciate it. We're now going to go to a question from my daughter, Evie, for you.
Hi, my name is Evie, and I just turned 8. Each year there are more and more pollutions happening, and I need it to stop. What can you do to help our community?
Thank you so much, Evie. I agree with you. I'm so impressed with youth that I have met over the last several years since being in Congress, and admire all of you because you're paying attention and you're holding adults' feet to the fire. So thank you for that question. As a member of Congress, I have so many responsibilities to my constituents, and one of them, of course, is ensuring their voices are brought to the forefront. Many of you know that climate change is the most important thing to me. So something I've enjoyed is working with fellow members of Congress to talk about the climate crisis and what we can do about it. So that's why I have worked hard to make sure that we introduce the Climate Stewardship Act of 2019. Among other things, it will usher in the planting of more than 15 billion trees, which I think will clean the earth. I also practice what I promote. I use my own reusable water bottle. I strive to reduce and reuse. I recycle everything. I walk to work. I try not to drive my car. I use public transportation where and when I can. And I'm also fighting to make sure that we can hold polluters accountable. I want to do everything I can to make sure that you have clean air to breathe, Evie, and that everyone, all of your friends and your family do as well.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. I have a question for you, which is, right now we're in the middle of a holiday season where family and loved ones traditionally gather together and celebrate and spend time together. But we're also in the middle of a pandemic, making getting together more complicated and potentially dangerous than ever before. We know that communities of color and frontline communities who experience more air pollution on a daily basis have been suffering more severe impacts from this respiratory pandemic. Can you talk a little bit about how the COVID-19 crisis has shined a light on environmental justices and injustices, and how you think Congress and elected leaders can tackle both in a thoughtful and impactful way?
Thank you so much for that question. And yes, this has been such a trying time for so many people. This global health emergency has really shined a bright light on the social and health disparities among so many of our fellow Americans. in communities across the country. The good thing is I have many colleagues who also recognize this. We need help. We need to make sure we help our fellow Americans and anyone living in this country in the workplace, especially now. I joined my colleague, Representative Ro Khanna, to advocate for the Essential Workers Bill of Rights during this pandemic. I helped to secure $8 billion for Indian tribes in the Corona Relief Fund. I introduced the CDC Tribal Public Health Security and Preparedness Act, and this bill will increase tribal governments' access to public health and preparedness programs, both in light of historical events and the confusion and lack of clarity regarding the coronavirus outbreak funding. As a member of the Congressional Native American Caucus, I co-led with Representative Horn of Oklahoma to support the Tribal Medical Supplies Stockpile Access Act. We've introduced the COVID-19 Disaster in Indian Country Act, and we have worked as part of the Tri-Caucus Plus 2, the Tri-Caucus being the Hispanic, the Black, and the Asian caucus, plus 2 of us from Indian country. We've worked very hard to essentially disaggregate data so that we know exactly where we can put funding that is necessary. And so sometimes you see that they'll have all this data, and then at the end it says other. And what we need to do is make sure that we're breaking that data out so that every single community of color across the country, so that we know where they are with their numbers in this terrible pandemic, so that we can put the resources toward those communities that need it most. But yes, this pandemic has highlighted the disparities in so many communities of color across this country, and we're going to work hard to make sure that everybody gets what they need.
Thank you so much. That is some very important work, and I am heartened to hear that it is being tackled in so many different ways. I also wanted to just talk a little bit about, we just went through an election and we have a new administration coming in. And I was wondering what you think the most important ways to attack the climate crisis under the new administration will be. And are there priority issues for you that you want to tackle first?
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that question too. Well, I was really honored to serve on the 2020 Platform Drafting Committee and to actually be a voice there, a Native American voice on that committee to talk about the issues that we know we need to pay attention to. I have every faith in this incoming administration, President-elect Joe Biden, to do what needs to be done because he gets it. He knows there's no greater challenge facing our country and the world than climate change, and that's why he's agreed to join the Paris Climate Agreement as soon as he gets into office. He's also adopted our 30 by 30 resolution to save nature. Our president-elect and vice president-elect have a plan that will target 40% of the federal government's investment in a clean energy revolution to disadvantaged communities and empower those communities and the people who live there to benefit from this clean energy revolution. Their plans for clean energy, climate, infrastructure, and environmental justice will make historic investments in research and innovation, which is something that I've been working to get a head start on in Congress. Earlier this fall, the House passed my amendment to the Clean Economy, Jobs, and Innovation Act to increase funding for the Department of Energy's research accounts. And so I'm super happy also about John Kerry being named the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate. That tells me that this administration is serious about tackling this problem. We lost 4 years of combating and mitigating climate change, 4 entire years, where scientists were put on the back burner, where they didn't have a voice. And now scientists believe we have 9 more years at best to make serious decisions, to make a change of course in the way that we do things. So I have a lot of confidence in this administration moving forward, and you can bet that I'm going to do every single thing I can to make sure that we are helping to address this important issue.
Thank you so much for that. We look forward to seeing, some larger changes happening over the next few years, and supporting you and your participation in that change. We have another video from a young constituent who also heard that you had a big birthday recently and had a message for you.
Hi, Congresswoman Deborah Haaland. My name is Oliver. Happy birthday, and I have a question for you. What is your favorite part of your job?
Thank you, Oliver. That was so kind. Thank you for the birthday wish. I'm really super happy and excited to see you. And I thank you so much for thinking about me. You know, one of the favoriteest part of my jobs is knowing that I can work hard on behalf of you and kids just like you. It's your future that I want to protect. It's your opportunity in the outdoors, and it's your opportunities for a quality public education and all the things that you deserve to have as you grow up. So I learn something new every single day as a member of Congress, and I'm going to keep working hard to learn from you and your kids just like you, to make sure that you can grow up in a world that gives you opportunities, that gives you clean air to breathe, and that's what I love about my job.
Thank you so much for your time today and for all of the tireless work you have done to protect our climate. As a constituent, thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you on behalf of New Mexico families and our members.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Solera, and thank you, Congresswoman, and happy birthday. We appreciated so much you talking about everything that the intersecting issues around climate change, social injustices, and you even got a plug in there for public education, which we as moms always really appreciate you being supportive of our public schools. Thank you again, and to everyone watching at home, please stay tuned and follow us on Facebook at Moms Clean Air Force to see more of our Speak Out for Climate events. And thank you again, everyone, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.